I recently joined the guys on the All Too Real 2 podcast to discuss part 2 of Masters of the Universe Revelation. Be sure to check it out in the pinned comment below and visit all2real2.com for more info.
And now, our feature presentation.
Spoiler alert!
Welcome to Spoiler Alert. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Dustin.
And we are here to break down Spider-Man No Way Home. And I gotta say this straight out of the gate, I like this better than Endgame.
Oh man, really?
Yeah, I really dug the hell out of this movie. Because I went... Go ahead.
No, well, I did too. I don't know if I'm ready to say better than, well, you're kind of a Marvel hater though.
I wouldn't call myself a Marvel hater. I'm more of an objective person when it comes to Marvel. Like, I don't think everything hits 10 out of 10 with me with Marvel. Like, there are some things that really don't work with me with Marvel, and we'll get to a couple of those things.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I did enjoy most of Phase 4. Like, I like Shang-Chi. I'm probably one of the very few people that liked Eternals.
Oh, yeah.
And then I found myself, and then I went into No Way Home with low expectations because none of the trailers really wowed me. I'm like, this is going to be more of the same shit. And then I go into this, and I exited the theater, and it's like, oh my God, I really fucking dig this movie. Wow, This is the first Marvel movie I cared about since Endgame.
So, okay, just real quick, just for my own and the audience's sort of perception of this, are you, so you weren't a Spider-Man head before, you weren't a web head or whatever they call Spider-Man fans, you weren't like a big Spider-Man person before, or were you?
I am kind of, he wasn't necessarily my favorite.
Right.
He wasn't necessarily my favorite character, but I liked him just fine. If I were going more into Marvel, I'd say I was more into the X-Men than I was Spider-Man.
Right. Because I think it's important, especially for your show, there's like the Marvel fans, right? And then there's also an adjacent to that, next to that is they're Marvel fans, but they're bigger Spider-Man fans. So it's like the Spider-Man fans, it's very confusing for people that are just like normal, like what's going on with all of this stuff or whatever. But it's like you have the Spider-Man fans are kind of mad that he was like Tony Stark's dude or whatever, and not whatever, he's not off on his own. So everyone was kind of upset about that, or kind of like
and that's one of my issues with the MCU Spider-Man movies, but I'm glad the No Way Home directly addresses all these concerns.
Yeah, it totally does. Yep.
Yeah, like how they had Time magazine cover saying Iron Boy Jr. or all that. And I was just like, okay, thank you for addressing these concerns that I had. Or one of the main issues I had with the MCU Spider-Man films was they felt like expensive Arrowverse episodes. And then here comes Ned saying, I'm the guy in the chair. I'm like, okay, thank you for addressing that concern. It's almost as if Sony knew I was going into this completely objective.
Yeah. Well, I think, they really have been trying to, I don't know. I mean, I guess we can get into it like later on down the line, but I guess it's like really difficult to like carry a Spider-Man franchise, but also, you're carrying 30 movies or whatever it is at this point.
Exactly. And not to mention setting up key events in Multiverse of Madness and the multiverse in general.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of hinted upon. Shit, my phone's on vibrate. Okay, let's try this again. But just the multiverse in general.
Yeah, it's a big doozy.
They tease a lot of it, namely with what if and stuff like that. But this is where we get into it head on.
Yeah, like straight up. Even Peter Parker says, you know, there's a gag about how each one of them, you know, or whatever about them, you know, they talk about them
Yeah.
string theory and all of those
Yeah.
things or whatever. So even he was, and what was cool, I thought, is, you know, with these Marvel films, again, I don't want to jump ahead of what you have planned, but I think
Yeah.
it's cool that each, you know, the Captain America franchise, it's a sequel to Captain America, the one, you know, like each one that comes before,
Right.
just like this, but it's also carrying this giant Marvel thing upon its back. I mean, they've been pretty good about executing and pulling these things off.
Yeah. And let's just jump into the big reveal.
Yeah.
All 3 Peter Parkers in one room.
Boom.
And how it just naturally fit. But in my spoiler-free review, I say there are 2 scenes in this movie that kick the portal scene's ass. And it was the reveal of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. The way they're naturally integrated into the story, so it doesn't feel like pandering fan service. So it doesn't feel like The Rise of Skywalker, which it's interesting because The Rise of Skywalker was my last big event movie before shit hit the fan. And then 2 years later, to the day almost, I see No Way Home, and it's this exciting, like, rock concert energy to the point where during the third act, I wouldn't be surprised if mosh pits broke out. That's how energetic my crowd was.
Yeah, I was gonna ask when they reveal Andrew Garfield in the beginning with the portal, you know, in the beginning of that scene, when it's kind of like you're like, is it? Oh my God, maybe. Wait, no, it's probably not. Oh, like, was your audience just going berserk?
Oh yeah, insane.
Yeah,
it was just completely insane. And that was the kind of energy I had versus Rise of Skywalker, where there were audible groans, laughing at the reveal of Rey Palpatine, and then everybody just heading for the exit, stone-faced, like, let's just get the fuck in our car and go.
Yeah, like, I just I'm having like PTSD flashbacks.
That's another video though, dude.
Yeah.
Oh
sure.
Yeah, I gotta do that. I've been wanting to do that for 2 years.
Yeah, weren't we supposed to do that? And then the pandemic.
Yeah, then the pandemic happened.
Well, here we are for something more for something better, obviously. But yeah, we should still do that video for sure.
Hell yeah, we're doing that video. It would just be a matter of like finishing up other projects I have, and then I gotta rip the Band-Aid off and watch it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we do see them, it does feel like it's a part of the story and not just cynically jammed in. Right. I love how Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, and Tobey Maguire play off of each other perfectly. It feels natural to them. Or, as you just brought up, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland just being in awe of Tobey Maguire having natural webbing.
Yeah.
And I like that whole exchange, or the fact that they're flipping out over string theory and magic existing in this universe. And the fact that Tom Holland knows the Avengers and they have no clue who the Avengers are.
Right. No,
it's little really things
cool.
like it's little things like that drew me to this film, that made me say, you know what, you've been a little too hard on Marvel lately, Ryan. Just let this movie ride.
Yeah.
And I did. I was along for the ride.
Yes. And you know, I totally agree with you. It was the little details. It was them talking about, you know, he said, who's Gwen, you know, or something like that, and he's like, oh, it's my MJ in my, you know, or whatever. Like, that was like the little details, like who they're dating. They're talking about fighting aliens, and he talks about fighting Thanos, and they're like, wait, I still can't get over it. You fought an alien in space. Like, you know, it is like these little details between a very small, super select little club that across the multiverse, now we get to be a fly on the wall for. It was really fucking amazing.
Yeah, and the third act is just insane. I dug the hell out of it, especially Dafoe, who is like giving 110% to this for a role he should just be phoning in.
Yeah.
And I saw someone ask the question of, has Willem Dafoe ever given a bad performance? And I reply back, like, no. Even in Boondock Saints 2, the Boondock Saints 2 cameo, he's giving 110%.
He really is. I mean, I don't think we can overstate that, because that's the one thing. I think it was like 2 days later, and I was like, I don't know, in the shower, like making something, like, some random monotonous task. And I was like, damn, I remember I stopped whatever I was doing and like put the butter knife down, or, like put this whatever. And I'm like, Willem Dafoe, man. That was like my only thought, because he takes an already amazing villain and just drags him over the finish line of legendary.
Exactly. Like, he sticks the landing with this hardcore.
And you really hate him, and he like, to me, to be honest with you, and this is going to be controversial, I think. I don't even know if I want to say it, because it's very, like, I don't know, it's kind of big deal, but this performance puts him, I'm not going to say up to, I'm not going to say next to, I'm going to say in the same club, okay, we'll just say, as like a Heath Ledger Joker, I think, in the same club.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, 100%. And also, he's in two of the best movies this year, this and Zack Snyder's Justice League. And even in that, he's only in it for like 5 minutes out of a 4-hour movie, still giving 110%.
Kills it. He kills it. He kills everything. He kills, spoiler alert, he kills everything.
Yeah, he kills Aunt May. And just when I think, when Aunt May says, with great power comes great responsibility, here I am going, oh God, we're not doing this again. And then here comes Tom Holland just crushing this scene.
Yep.
Like, bringing genuine tears to my eyes without really saying words. I'm like, fuck, man. And everybody wants to shit talk him, but Tom Holland's a genuinely great actor.
He is. He really is. He was in that Netflix.
Cherry, you mean?
Not Cherry, but the other one with everybody.
Pattinson
in it.
I know what you're talking about.
The devil all the time, or something like that.
The devil all the time. Yeah, that was
okay.
it.
Say what you will about that movie. It's dark. It's whatever. Tom Holland murders that movie.
Yeah. That's one of those movies where I like the performances more than the overall film.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I wish I liked this more, because everyone is giving this their all. There are certain films like that.
Yeah, there's a movie called The Rover with Guy Pearce and Robert Pattinson. Yeah, they both just slaughter their performances. The movie's just but like their performances just. I remember seeing that in the theater and just being blown away. And Willem Dafoe is that kind of guy who gives these sort of performances too. Like, to get back to what you were saying, I mean, just when you think like you're like the Goblin makes you angry, and then at the same time you're like, well, wait a minute, and then all of a sudden you're angry again, and then you're just like, this guy's really like I mean, all of it, just that look he gives.
Just that duality he gives when he's with Aunt May, like pretending to be homeless and all that, where you're like, okay, I do feel for this guy. And then he turns in the Green Goblin. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude.
Yep.
And while we're at it, let's talk about Melina, man. Melina, man.
Yeah.
I've gone on record saying Melina's my all-time favorite comic book performance. I love his Doc Ock. And just when I think I'm going to get angry with how Tom Holland syncs up his Stark Tech, and I was like, okay, but Melina's still crushing this studio mandated MCU dialogue. He's still crushing it, giving it 110%.
Yeah, I was always on the fence. So, okay, so here's the thing about me is Spider-Man 2, everyone wants to say it's the greatest whatever of all time, best Spider-Man movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I'd have to go back and watch it. But I remember being unsure if I felt that way. And to this day, I'm still kind of unsure if I feel like it's the best Spider-Man. I felt the same way about so in the original, when he played Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2, when he dies or drifts off or whatever in the end, I remember being like, I felt kind of cheated because I wanted more of that maniacal, and you only got so much in that movie. And then to bring him back now, it's like, you get that,
Yeah. But even then in Spider-Man 2, Doc Ock has a phenomenal character arc where he goes from this guy with good intentions to stealing this money and then having his come to Jesus moment before he dies and realizes, oh shit, I fucked up.
Right.
That's why I love Alfred Molina as Doc Ock.
He's really good, man. He's just that bad guy in the pantheon of all rogues galleries. I mean, how cool just visually, and then sinisterly, like no pun intended, or maybe there's pun intended, in a sinister sort of way, right? This dude with these 4 arms, like, come on, dude, it doesn't get any more badass than that.
Yeah, and when he's in No Way Home, where he gets that moment where he sees Peter after he gets cured, and Peter hands him the Tony Stark arc reactor, and he's like, "My, how you've grown!" I damn near teared up. I just seeing these two together again, just seeing Doc Ock be friendly to Peter again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's something to be said about how, the way it was written, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, they both tried to save these guys and they couldn't, whether it was the Goblin or Ock or whoever. But here comes Tom Holland's Spider-Man, who pulls it off. He's the one who saved Doc Ock, and that says a lot about, I think, his version of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Even then, Tom Holland at the beginning of the film is a really good dude. He's telling the people at MIT, look, don't punish Ned and MJ for my actions.
Right.
He's still being that good person. He's like a saint throughout this film.
Right. Yeah. I remember seeing something recently about how Tom Holland says as an actor, he gets upset at the character because, it would be easy just for Peter Parker to go along with what Strange was doing. Had Strange sent those dudes back to their universes or whatever, he would have just sailed through and been able to go to MIT with the girl he loves, with his best buddy, or whatever. Maybe, right? Maybe, because he had saved the college admissions lady or whatever. But he not only did he end up, foregoing that, and he ended up losing even more to save these dudes.
Yeah, that's next to my next point.
Yeah,
that's next to my next point, dude. I love that this film has actual consequences, because my main issue with the MCU Spider-Man movies is there really aren't that many consequences to his actions.
Yeah, I mean, maybe pre-Endgame, but I feel like post-Endgame, everything is consequences now.
Yeah, everything is consequential, exactly. And with Spider-Man No Way Home, when Goblin blows up the MacGuffin box, he has to ask Strange to do that spell.
Yeah.
And everybody forgets about him, which is interesting because the film somehow did one more day better than the comic.
Yeah, they did.
That's weird to me. That's weird to me that a film did a comic arc better.
Yeah, and if you were to look at this film, that brings this up too for me. If you were to look at this film on paper, especially 10 years ago, it should not have worked.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I saw the trailers for these films, I'm like, this is just going to be pandering fan service, isn't it? And here comes Sony saying, oh, we're going to give you your fan service, but we're also going to give you a compelling story. It's why I love Cobra Kai, another show Sony produces.
Yeah, I mean, even if you go back, I mean, I remember saying to someone after I saw Endgame, I'm like, could you imagine how badly that could have gone? Like, you know, Thanos being like a Muppet or something. Like these films could have gone really bad. And I think with Marvel, they have a formula, but also, you know, there's a lot of people who know their shit. But I think something else syncs up for Spider-Man 3, for No Way Home, and I think that's what we get to witness, is this sort of old meets new. This is how we should have done it, but we didn't know better back kind of thing. You know, whatever.
Yeah, and when you have Pascal and Feige working together, bring their respective universes together and having it work, like even the Venom stuff worked for me. Yeah, because it's clear they're setting up Peter's Venom story.
Right.
Well, Tom Holland Peter's story.
Right. How do you think that's gonna play out?
How do I think that's gonna play out? Honestly, what I think is it'll probably play out. Okay. Honestly, I think it's going to be a straight up Venom story, just with Tom Holland's Peter Parker. And then they'll probably find some kid from TV to play Eddie Brock, who would be cocky. I'm probably thinking the person that comes to mind would be Joe Keery from Stranger Things.
Oh, okay.
I'd see as Eddie Brock in that universe. And the world still forgets he's Peter Parker.
Yeah, I'm seeing all these theories and speculative things, like, you know, on YouTube or wherever, and they're all suggesting that little piece left behind by Tom Hardy's Venom in the MCU is going to find its way somehow to Flash Thompson or Ned before it finds its way to Peter, which sounds kind of insane.
That I don't know about either of those two. I'd rather just bring Eddie Brock in story-wise. Give Peter Parker an actual rival.
That would be interesting to see if Sony would be cool with having two Eddie Brocks.
Yeah. They should be, given that. And even then, with the Venom movies, like, I went in knowing that it was alternate reality. It takes place in San Francisco. It's more the lethal enforcer angle. Mm-hmm. Like, they're fine. They're fine. That's how I looked at both Venom movies. Even though I didn't like Let There Be Carnage as much as the first one.
Yeah, I feel like they should have named it Venom Let There Be CGI.
Exactly. And when that post-credit scene played at the end of the first Venom movie, I'm like, okay, I am so in for this sequel. Right. Because even Woody Harrelson in that goofy wig, I was like, oh, yes. You know what? I can get behind this.
Yeah, me too.
And they're both still really good in Let There Be Carnage. It's just that you could tell this was an R-rated film cut down to a PG-13.
Right. And
you could tell it was supposed to be a lot darker, and then Kevin Feige stepped in and doubled down on the sitcom humor.
Right. Yeah.
Because I didn't like any of the goofy Sonny and Cher chicken shtick and all that. I'm like, I'm here to see a Venom movie, not a wacky 80s sitcom.
So were you then surprised that they used Venom in No Way Home? In the post-credit?
Not really. Not when I knew what they were building up to in the post-credit scene for Let There Be Carnage. But I kind of knew it was just going to be a one and done kind of thing.
Right.
That Venom would go back to San Francisco and his reality. But what I'm more interested in is how Morbius is going to approach this, because in the first trailer, Michael Keaton's Vulture is in it.
Yep. And it looks like, sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
No, it looks like on that Spider-Man poster, where it says murderer or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks as though it's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So,
But apparently that was like PS4 promo shot for the Spider-Man video game.
Right, but now it's interesting looking at that first. You bring up a really good point, and I'm glad you brought this up actually, because I feel as though looking at that trailer, going back in time a year and a half or however long it's been ago, and watching that first Morbius trailer with Michael Keaton, the Daily Bugle stuff on the bus, the Spider-Man poster that looks kind of weird, whatever. Now we've got post No Way Home, so we know that separate universes, all this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah.
Now to go back and look at that first Morbius trailer with this understanding, does that mean then Morbius is in the Raimi like, what does that mean?
Yeah. If anything, I'd say Morbius is in the MCU.
Yeah,
given
it's weird.
that
It's still conflicting, yeah.
Yeah. And apparently Michael Keaton just went back for reshoots for Morbius as Vulture.
Yeah.
From what I've heard. So
yeah,
they probably have more plans with that.
Yeah, I was surprised not to see Michael Keaton in No Way Home.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen Michael Keaton return for that.
Me too.
Given that he gives a god tier villain performance in Homecoming.
Yeah, it's personal.
Yeah. Like, I love the car scene is one of my top 3 favorite MCU scenes of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Where Michael Keaton's in the car with Peter Parker and he's giving him the "you better stay away from my daughter" talk, and being intimidating as hell, like he's in a Marvel Netflix show. Which segs to my next point.
Yeah.
Matt Murdock is in this universe.
Okay, yeah. So I audibly yelled, "Fuck yeah," and put my fist like pumped one in the air, like whatever. I didn't realize I was doing it. I just did it. I just screamed, "Fuck yeah."
Me too. I had a lot of those moments too. And I'm usually very objective with the MCU because most of it to me is very samey. But when Matt Murdock comes in and he's Matt Murdock, and I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah. And it was the exact picture that had leaked on the John Campea show. Which is super weird.
John Campea.
It's so weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah, John Campea is all about spoiling shit for clicks. I'm not a big fan of him.
Well, and the thing is that to me looked like a fake picture, and I'm like, okay, well maybe it's concept art, but no, it wasn't. It was the actual.
Yeah.
And okay, so that means Matt Murdock is in this universe. Do you think that it's the same Matt Murdock from the Netflix show, or do you think it's a variant?
Yeah, I think it's the same version from the Netflix show.
Oh shit! Okay.
Because the shows do acknowledge the events from the MCU.
Right.
And what's his name? Kingpin is just showed up at the tail end in a picture of Hawkeye, which that's one of those it's fine shows for me, but with each cliffhanger, it's like, okay, I'd like to see where this goes. Like the reveal of Yelena or the reveal of Kingpin.
Right.
With each episode, it's like, okay, where is this going? Because I'm interested. But most of the time, it's like, okay.
Yeah, and they have so much stuff to resolve in one episode. There has to be a season 2.
Yeah.
And like let's just put this out there. Marvel gave the fans the return of Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin and the return of Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock in the same week.
Exactly. Yeah, I was gonna hit that point too.
What a gift.
That's huge. Next,
Huge.
hopefully I see Mike Coulter or Kristen Ritter come back, because I really dug the hell out of the first season of Luke Cage.
Me too.
The first season of Jessica Jones is one of my perfect seasons. I have like maybe 10 shows I consider perfect seasons. Jessica Jones season 1 is one of them.
Yeah, and so comic book wise, I grew up on basically like a steady diet of Batman and the Punisher. I'm just a fan of the dark and gritty
Me too.
stuff, and so I love Johnny Bernthal as Punisher, and so you know, it's really difficult. It's a difficult life to be a Punisher fan. I mean, a lot of bad things happen to us consistently.
Especially given Bernthal just came out and said he's not looking to play a Disney-fied version of the Punisher, and I don't blame him.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So we might get Punisher, right? But we are. It's hard because we want the blood splatter, brains blowing out, bad guy. Like, you know, we want him going and going undercover in some militia group and then blowing everybody up in a van. And like that, we want the Punisher. We want him killing criminals like he was. But even a lot of people thought the Netflix, that season 2 was really watered down. And I didn't think that. I just thought it was, fine.
I only ended up watching the first 3 episodes of it. I didn't really get into it, but I really should go back and revisit.
Yeah, there's definitely a big ass reveal at the very end. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For Punisher fans. And, you know, I just saw today that, I don't know, Marvel is changing his logo because all of the right-wing people are, you know, co-opting the Punisher logo. So listen, it's really hard to be a Punisher fan. It's very difficult. And
exactly. And segging into that, I love how Geeks and Gamers and sites like that are calling this a win for being not woke, despite the fact that Peter Parker's in an interracial relationship, though all the villains are most of the villains are race bent. And it's like, okay, sure, this is not woke.
You know, and that's the thing is, like, I just think comic books and in turn comic films, right? They're always reflective of what's happening in the world. You can call them woke.
Exactly.
You can call them whatever you need to call them to whatever. But what you're missing, what those closed-minded people are missing is this idea that great art, whether on purpose, on accident, or completely just by mistake, right? It reflects what's happening around us currently. And what I will say about this Spider-Man film is they really play heavily into the conspiracy theory stuff in the first act with Mysterio and with Peter. You know, the teacher, Hannibal Buress, is like, I don't trust you. And he's like, listen, don't listen to him. He's a conspiracy theorist. Like, I thought that was really fun and smart and really funny, you know? And even with Matt Murdock, like catching the brick in the window to bring it back to Matt Murdock for us. Like, you know, I think that is a testament to how good the writing is on this film. And again, they had a lot to balance, but to have Matt Murdock catching a brick that somebody who is under the influence of a conspiracy theory through a window, come on, does it get any better than that?
And if they cut it at that, I'd call that a great scene. But then Marvel got in the way and said, and had him say, I'm a good lawyer. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, dude, you were doing so well.
Oh man. I mean, so where do you think we see Daredevil / Matt Murdock or one or the other again?
The way I see it right now is it'll probably be cameo basis at this point.
Right.
Like, they're slowly bringing these people in. Like, I don't think Daredevil's going to get renewed immediately. And even then, I don't think it's going to go to Disney Plus. But then again, the Beatles dropped a fuck ton of F-bombs on Get Back. So I wouldn't be surprised if they consider a TVMA rating and take it the route of Netflix, where they don't even drop an F-bomb at all during any of the shows.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because Ryan Reynolds and that whole crew on Deadpool is like, yo, we're not interested in doing a PG-13 Deadpool or whatever.
Exactly.
So they've got that, and they've come out and said, like the head of Disney is like, why would we buy the asset just to change the asset? So it's like, if they're
Exactly.
gonna do an R Deadpool, that would make so much more sense, and it would make everybody feel better if
It
you
would be another $1 billion movie during a pandemic.
Yeah. And also too, you can have an R Punisher to go with it. You can have a soft R Daredevil who also shows
Yeah.
up in Spider-Man. You can have an R Jessica Jones where there's sex in it. Like these are things that you can
Yeah.
do. So maybe everyone wants to point, oh, they're
And
gonna
the
put that
thing with a
stuff on.
character like Deadpool is that he appeals across the board. Like he could just show up and do a Stan Lee cameo.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And I won't be surprised if Disney is putting some extra zeros on Ryan Reynolds' check to do that.
I'm sure. I mean, to be honest, I'm a little surprised we didn't see a post-credit scene from Deadpool
Yeah.
being
But
the
I want to
only
talk
one.
about the MVP of this film,
Yeah,
Andrew fucking Garfield.
I gotta agree.
Like, I was not the biggest fan of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I like the Amazing Spider-Man one just fine. It's one of those movies that if it were on TV, I'd watch it and play on my phone. But I hated Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I hate how Twitter is trying to make the Amazing Spider-Man 2 a thing. And without Twitter realizing that the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was Sony's cynical attempt to do their own Marvel Cinematic Universe, in which Amy Pascal ended up running to Kevin Feige. And then Amy Pascal dropped Spider-Verse, and Kevin Feige was like, oh shit, we need a Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of evidence as to a creative like back and forth influencing, and those are all really amazing points. I got to agree with you, man. If there is an MVP, at least on the hero side, it's definitely Andrew Garfield. I mean, they had to have known that going in.
Yeah.
His dialogue is just
Yeah.
his character, man. And
Yeah.
okay, can we also give him an Oscar or MVP trophy to go
Yeah.
along with it for pretending this whole 2 years that he's not in
Yeah.
the movie?
Yeah. And just give him an Oscar alone for his promo tours and talk show appearances while he's promoting Tick, Tick, Boom, which is one of those movies that I know will probably be on my favorite films list.
Right.
And
he is so good in all of that.
Yeah, and when he rescues MJ, and he holds MJ with tears in his eyes, I'm like, God damn.
Yeah.
Why didn't we get this Andrew Garfield in either of those two movies? Like, if he had given that performance in Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, I'd call them all-time great comic book movies. Because I always felt Andrew Garfield was a good Spider-Man, but a bad Peter Parker. I didn't like male model Peter Parker.
See, for me, I was not a fan. Again, this is gonna be controversial, but fuck it, let's roll with it. I was not a fan of Tobey Maguire. I was more of an Andrew Garfield fan because whereas the films might not have been. I was in for the promise of what those films could have been. For some reason, I really liked Andrew Garfield's style. I really liked his sort of like humor. I really liked his sort of aloofness a little bit. His sort of he was kind of naive a little bit early on until the tragedy started to hit.
Yeah.
And he had more life and death tragedy than Tobey.
Yeah. Whose main concern was, oh my God, I gotta get to MJ's big performance.
Right.
Which again, I like him as Tobey Maguire. I love as Peter Parker. I hate him as Spider-Man because he feels so stiff as Spider-Man.
So stiff.
And you gotta be able to balance both, and that's why I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. because he's able to balance both.
Absolutely. He really does. And, you know, he brings that sort of, again, he has even more of the naive stuff because he's early high school and he's just a kid, you know, and he gets hurt. And Tom Holland's Spider-Man films have always been really filled with, these are the mistakes a young person would make, and the goofiness and the sort of like rom-commy, like comedy stuff with the man in the chair and stuff you're giggling at, whatever. But also, then now we're gonna punch you as hard as we can in the mouth with some real world consequences, which he's stuck underneath, you know, a building falling down because of Michael Keaton's character. He still decides to go save that guy, right? There's that. Then in the second film, you know, he trusts Mysterio, and then those things are blowing up and killing people or whatever. He gets burned by trusting that. So Tom Holland has always been this really good balance. You're totally right. This really good balance of, I'm a kid, I'm learning to drive, and like, holy shit, we're all gonna die. There's blood everywhere.
Yeah. And it's why I love how in No Way Home shit gets real.
It gets really real.
Whereas in the first two, it's like, okay, we're doing the cutesy little meet cutes and all that. And then No Way Home is just like, boom, Ant-Man is dead. Fuck you. Boom, Green Goblin killed your chance to be friends with Ned and MJ.
Right.
Boom.
And it's just so real.
And another interesting theory I want to bring up is people don't know who Peter Parker is on Earth, but you know who would? Captain Marvel and Nick Fury, which could set up Secret War.
Okay, so explain to me the on Earth piece of it, because that to me is very interesting.
Yeah, because Doctor Strange said about the spell that people on Earth don't know who you are, but off-world, where Nick Fury and Captain Marvel are, they know who Peter Parker is. They can summon him when they need his help.
This is a good point to make. This is a very good theory.
Because in the film, Nick Fury is explicitly stated to be off planet as Tom Holland and them are being interrogated.
Right.
Which then goes to the last shot of the film where he evolves from Iron Boy to Spider-Man. When you see him run in the iconic blue and red suit, and it looks so fucking good.
Which he made himself with scraps, basically. A box of scraps.
And and it's just like that little love letter to Sam Raimi. Like that final shot is just such a love letter to Sam Raimi. And even then, there's also little love letters to Mark Webb in there too, as you're seeing like first person shots in there too.
There really is. Yeah, and I think it answers a lot of, you know, the people we talked about this earlier, but the actual like diehard like webhead Spider-Man fans were mad because, you know, he's Tony Stark's little baby brother and this and that.
Yeah.
He's got all these other characters. But this movie, the culmination of 3 films, the culmination of this trilogy, it leaves Peter Parker completely alone, literally and figuratively, stitching together a suit from from the fabric store and going out on his own to stop crime. Like he's without all the Stark tech, which I know earlier in the film, he like when he's got the Iron Spider suit on and it says that the Stark network is unavailable. Was that supposed to be suggestive of his tech not working anymore? Because what was that? He kind of loses all his suits in a way, or
kind of, sorta. I never really grasped that.
It's kind of vague, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, why else would he be stitching a suit together at the end? Like, he just wanted a new one, or either way, them ending it like that was the perfect way to answer the diehard Spider-Man fans, like, here you go, here's Spider-Man, like literally no one, he's completely alone in some shitty apartment.
Yeah. And that was one of my main issues with No Way Home. Stuff is left kind of vague in the first act with the aforementioned Stark Tech stuff you just brought up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it'll have this very uneven tone where it goes from shit gets real to sitcom shenanigans with Tom Holland in his boxers. And it's like, oh my God, please be a movie. And then Doctor Strange comes in and it becomes a really good movie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much. That film, I mean, I felt very overwhelmed, obviously in a good way,
Yeah.
but I felt very overwhelmed, almost like, and not the same kind, but the same volume of being overwhelmed, right? As I would like walking out of like a Christopher Nolan film or something.
Right.
Like, wow, I'm really overwhelmed. I need to think about this shit. But it was like very joyous.
Yeah. We're talking about Doctor Strange, right? I saw that in 3D, and it's one of two films where the price of admission is so worth it in 3D. The other for me being Alita Battle Angel.
Yeah, well, that's a hell of an experience to go out and get. I don't think I had the opportunity to see it in 3D or something, but I did see Doctor Strange, the original, the first one. In IMAX like 2 or 3 times, because you could get the different IMAX posters, the little posters, and there was like a mirror version one that's like super rare. I got that shit.
There you go.
Had to get it.
I
mean, and at the end of this, I just remember being like, wow, I saw Spider-Man, but Jesus, where do I even start to break it down? Like, oh, we got Matt Murdock. There was a bunch of stuff about Stark Industries in there I didn't quite understand. Why were they after Happy Hogan for a second for, having tech or whatever that was all about, and then the Stark.
Or better yet, why are they doing the Batman v Superman scene? And then there's this random old guy hitting on MJ when I'm pretty sure MJ's a minor in this universe.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy shit that happens. And then obviously you get Jamie Foxx too.
Yeah.
As Electro.
And he's way better in this. He's not playing the Aspergery Mark David Chapman character in this. He's playing it as Jamie Foxx, and that's kind of an upgrade.
Yeah, I like the way that he plays it. Like, somehow he pulled that. Like, normally that would look really bad. Like, Jamie Foxx is just mad that he was a nerd in the first one and his ego made him like, I need to be cool in the new one. But no, he pulls it off where you can tell internally he still is that nerdy dude, but somehow he's sort of evolved slightly into this calm, cool, and collected, and he notices in the mirror he looks different. He's like, I'm not giving this up, which he pulls it off. He pulls it off somehow.
Which is why I'm worried about Black Adam, because The Rock specifically has a clause in his contract where he cannot be defeated. And how are you going to approach this character with The Rock and not have it be The Rock?
He's also like openly going out like these last 2+ years, even before there was a green light on the film, and just like shit talking everyone. Oh, like Black Adam has defeated everyone. Even he keeps like head pumping, like like head faking, like he's like really wants piece of Superman. Like, so that's very interesting. You say that.
Yeah.
Maybe because he knows he can't be defeated. You know? Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the trailer for that. Looks really cool. Looks dark.
Yeah, the brief bit I saw of it looked really cool, but I want to see like a full trailer. But I did like some of the casting for that, like Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. I'm like, huge. Go on. Yeah. Aldous Hodge as Hawkman. Go on.
Yeah, the casting's phenomenal, and his costume looks cool. And to be honest, on the flip side of the Rock thing, he's probably the only one who could who could really bring a deserving life to that character. He's just the way he's
Yeah.
built alone, his workout schedule, it's stupid, ridiculous.
Yeah.
He looks really good in that suit. He looks scary.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Now let's talk about what is essentially the glorified trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty excited for this.
I am too. I'm very excited. I loved, again, giving Marvel credit with the sequel to the film is somehow being a sequel to the first film with those characters and honoring those narratives, but it's also got Wanda, it's also got America Chavez, it's all, it's bringing
Yeah.
those new, or it's carrying the weight on its back of the 28 films that have come before it. It's using what we just saw. Very brilliant marketing move on Marvel's part, but it's
Yeah.
using what we just saw in the multiverse with No
And
Way
even
Home.
tying into Doctor Strange's What If episode too.
Yes.
The big reveal at the end, which is, by the way, if they made that Doctor Strange What If episode a movie, it would be a 5-star film for me because I love the hell out of that episode.
Yeah, and you have his love interest like clearly walking down the aisle with someone else.
Yeah.
So what do you think that's going to be? Do you think that they're really going to go like, okay, we tested the waters with, because everyone was saying before No Way Home, they're all coming through. Oh, that's going to be the X-Men.
Yeah.
That's going to be, blah, blah, blah. That's going to be Ben Affleck's Daredevil. There's so many
I won't
theories.
be surprised if that's the case with these reshoots. Because Spider-Man was really testing well even before the movie came out. I won't be surprised if that's what these reshoots are. They put a few extra zeros in a check for Hugh Jackman, or to a lesser extent, like Michael Fassbender's Magneto, because Patrick Stewart Boldface came on and said he's done.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fitting end for him in Logan.
Yeah. I fucking love Logan.
Yeah, it is
I actually just upgraded to the 4K for that.
I just watched the Logan Noir version.
Yeah.
So
hell
good.
Yeah, Logan Noir.
So
it
good.
Changes the tone of the film drastically too.
No,
if you watch it from that angle.
Totally different. They're two totally different movies.
Exactly.
Same with Justice League, the Justice is Gray thing. There's two totally different movies, and I love that. Exactly. It's almost like an old 1930s kind of superhero thing.
Exactly. So, all right. So, Dustin, out of 5, what would you give Spider-Man No Way Home?
Out of 5, oh man, this is a rough one. I would have to say, I'm gonna give it a solid 4. I'm gonna give it a solid 4.
Actually, me too. I did give it a solid 4.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did.
You have to, right?
Yeah. Like, it's one of those films where you have to temper your expectations.
Yeah, and everyone's expectations were all over the fucking road with this. I mean, people thought, I think you have a really good point because, and I'm glad that you mentioned that just a moment ago, because I think that with this, they thought, oh, it's going to be Hugh Jackman and Ben Affleck and the guy like, Peter Parker's old landlord screaming about rent. It's going to be every single person you ever saw in any Marvel movie ever jumping out of portals. And they don't do that in No Way Home.
Yeah.
He says they're coming through and you kind of see like, I mean, I don't know if you saw it or anybody else did it. I don't know why no one's talking about it. I definitely saw Kraven the Hunter up there in the crowd.
Yeah.
So there's that. Someone said they saw Morbius, but there's all of these characters that are whatever. They don't come through. Okay. The people that do come through obviously are, the Sinister 5 or whatever we're calling them.
Sinister 6.
Yeah. And like, well, Doc Ock was kind of out. So then all of a sudden it's kind of like he's battling 5 of them or whatever. And then, Venom and then the other 2 Spider-Men. So, which is cool. But now with Multiverse of Madness, you're right. They could totally just be like, well, that worked. Now we're taking it up to 12.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a crazy, I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
So
It
yeah,
could
I mean,
be like Multiverse of Madness could probably make No Way Home its bitch. But it
yeah.
depends on what Sam Raimi we're gonna get. Are we gonna get Evil Dead Sam Raimi? Or are we gonna get shut the fuck up and do as you're told Sam Raimi, like in Oz the Great and Powerful?
Yeah. I think we're gonna get the former.
Yeah, I hope. I'm
Yeah.
leaning towards former.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's just older and he's already done this one time around, but also,
Yeah,
you again, nice point, because maybe he's like, shit, if I mind my manners here, maybe I could do a couple Marvel films, or something. Who
yeah,
knows?
yeah.
But Marvel knows what they have with Sam Raimi too, so
Right.
yeah.
All right. So anyway, thanks for joining me, Dustin.
Of
I had
course.
blast talking to you about this.
Yeah, I had
I'm
a blast too,
definitely
man.
looking to make this a real thing. All right. That being said, be sure to like, comment, share, spread the word of New Rums Media. Follow me on all my socials at New Rums Media. And until then, I'll see you next time.